My equation for wealth is, first you have to learn about value.
If you take this money and you just set it right here, it's not going to do anything.
Years and years ago, he says, you better tell the world what you know. First of all, let's go back to what is financial education. It's not get a job, work hard, save money, and invest in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. That's not it. Money is, the financial industry is two things, debt and taxes. Debt and taxes. And that's where fake starts. 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and the US dollar became debt. And we still tell kids to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and get out of debt. Now, who tells them to do that? That's the most ridiculous thing there is.
The book starts and it says, lie number 1, saving money will make you rich.
Yeah, it never will. You know that.
All taught that as kids.
Yeah, because they can print it. Why would you save it and why would you work for it if they can print it faster than you can work for it? And number 2 is they keep dropping the interest rates on it. Japan still has zero interest rate policy. And the Japanese are the biggest savers in the world. And I'm Japanese, I'm 4th generation. They're not too bright.
Right.
Why do you keep saving when they're printing it? When I'm in Japan, that's what I mean by fear. They're so afraid because the Japanese, they're a good culture, but they do as they're told.
Right. It's very conformist.
Very conformist, very conformist. So they just do as they're told, and then they just save money, and their government, this guy Abenomics, is just printing trillions of it and buying ETFs with it, and they don't know what to do.
And they've been doing this for 20 years.
Because they're afraid.
They're afraid, okay.
They're afraid they might make a mistake. They're good little students in school. Go to school, get a job, don't make mistakes.
Right, and that's what school conditions people to do,
Correct.
is to not get mistakes.
Correct.
Get an A on the test, show up and do your homework. But to be a great entrepreneur and investor and a great rich person, you have to engineer mistakes into your life.
Well, I went to fly for the US Marine Corps in Vietnam. And the military education is different than academic education. We're taught to make mistakes. So every day I'd fly and we had to kill the engine on our aircraft and crash.
It's called auto rotation. I used to fly R-22s and it's the scariest thing you've ever done.
But every aircraft we did, I was cross-trained in all the aircraft. We always practice crashing. Because one day, as you know, you will crash.
And you did crash.
And I did crash 3 times. But if I didn't practice that, I'd be dead. So what happens to the average person in a financial crash, they don't know what to do. And right now, as you know, for the middle class of the world, we're in a crash. The purchasing power of the yen, the euro, the rupiah, all going down. And people are working harder and harder and harder, and the central banks of the world are printing more money. Interest rates, Trump just told the Fed, don't you raise those interest rates. Well, that screws all the savers.
Right, and everyone hears the economy's doing great and the stock market's up, but the middle class and the poor are having a harder time.
Correct.
Right.
And that's why I write and I speak.
And so if someone's listening to us that's stuck in that poor middle class trap and they hear it's their fear that ultimately is keeping them from that, that's a hard thing to hear, Robert. But you're gonna give them the information about what they can do if they can get out of that fear.
Well, every time I do a lot of speaking to the masses out there, Lehman doesn't invite me in because they're gone, but they go, well, it's so risky. What you're saying is risky. And I said, what I do isn't risky for me, but it's risky for you. And when somebody says, what is risk? You have to look in the mirror. Do you know what I mean? For me to fly in Vietnam, that was high risk. But the higher the risk, the more you have to study. You know that, I know that. So if you're not gonna study, you're not gonna practice and all that, then you should do what Wall Street tells you to do. Buy, 401ks, mutual funds, ETFs and all that. But that's where they're fake assets, because they only make Wall Street or the City of London rich. Just watch where the cash is flowing. Follow the money.
Yeah.
It's not making the poor middle class rich. All Wall Street in America has done is rip off the pensions, because pensions are the biggest pool of money in America. And states like Kentucky, New Jersey, Illinois, California, Hawaii are going bankrupt because Wall Street went in and just sucked all the cash out of their pensions. So the school teachers like my dad, the firefighters and police officers, they have no retirement now. And so that's why it's fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. They're the same system.
Money is useless until it is used. I did not know this. I thought money was valuable. I was taught that money was security. That's why I started a retirement account. I had a retirement account when I was 28 years old. I invested money in a 401k. That's a terminology, as you know, that it says I can get this money when I'm 65 or something. Every year I put that money in that retirement account because I thought that money, because I was taught that money was security. Money has never made me more secure. It doesn't, I end up forgetting it's even over there. I go years without remembering, oh, I got that money over there. I wasn't even thinking about it. I don't know what it's invested in. Put it in mutual funds. I don't know what the mutual funds are. I have no passion or connection to any of the companies. Like Coca-Cola is a terrible product. Come on, let's face it, right? Most of the companies don't I don't have any connection with or charitable, I'm changing the world here. It was just about money. It's like this money just sits here. What is it? It's just pieces of paper. Somebody decided on the colors, the values. Somebody put a little stamp on it. A lot of work went into making me believe this is somehow valuable. And today I just know that until this starts moving around, it's not valuable. People are way more valuable.
Right. And yet it tricks most of the masses into thinking.
It tricked me for years.
Right. They got to hold it in the account and it's a security and let's worry about the rainy day and it
exactly.
keeps this whole class of population down.
Yeah, save the money, save the pennies. Now I'm I don't want to save it, I want to use it.
Right.
So if you asked me today, hey, would you rather have $1 billion? It's a great question for your guest today. $1 billion, you have 30 seconds to make a decision, or 1 billion friends. Which would you take?
And to learn about value and values, you have to learn about how people value things, what the process is that people go through physically, emotionally, conceptually, to get value from something or to find value. And so you create value in some way, or you produce value in the form of your product or service and your marketing. You help people get the thing that they want, and in exchange, they give you money for that in business. This is the basic business equation, right? And if you do a good job at that, and you do that enough, you produce value for them, you get money in return. You get enough of it that you can then take it and go and invest it in something, right? So first step is value. The next step is money that you get. And then if you get some of that money, you need to go invest it in something for the long run. And Robert Kiyosaki has got some of the best stuff on this, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. Rich people buy assets, or wealthy people buy assets, and poor people buy liabilities. And the middle class buy liabilities that they think are assets. It's such an interesting and subtle little point here, right? Yeah. So, and I'm trying not to be critical here. This is a generalization. We all make these mistakes, but unfortunately, a typical middle class person will go and buy something like a new car, or, God forbid, a new boat, and think, I've bought an asset now. I just spent $50,000 on this boat, but they're not calculating that, it's worth $30,000 as soon as they, put it in the water for the first time, and then all this upkeep and whatever. And so the type of assets that you're after, and I'm sure, you're very familiar with this, is the type of assets that appreciate and the type that throw off money, right? Or throw off some other type of value in some way. So at the very least, you have to learn about buying things that become more valuable over time. And that is a very small subset of all of the things that are being sold out there or that are available on, planet Earth. And so to understand wealth, understand money and wealth, you got to study, you've got to go learn about it. And there are a lot of people in the world who are brilliant, motivated, ingenious, well-practiced, who their specialty is taking money from people that have it, defrauding people in one way or another. And there are a lot of them. And it's easy to fall for something if you are not educated. And so, like any other area, you've got to go learn about it. And so whether that be picking up real estate and saying, I'm going to go learn about investing in real estate, and I'm going to learn the difference between, a piece of real estate that's more valuable than, I can pay for it, or less valuable, one that appreciates over time, one that you got to be able to do the math and say, I'm going to buy a piece of real estate that, throws off cash flow. If you're going to be a real estate investor, for example, we live in a great apartment in Miami. My wife and I have had an apartment in Miami for several years, and they had a crash, huge crash in the downturn, and we rent an amazing apartment in this building, and I don't know how the owners of these apartments, we've lived in a few of them, and I don't know how they buy these things and then rent them out, because they have to be losing money in a lot of ways. Whereas you could go and invest in an apartment building, or you could buy some single family homes in like a normal city, and they could cash flow, they could appreciate over time. My partner James, for example, is a great real estate investor. He invests in real estate in Halifax and Nova Scotia, and a city that most people have never, maybe you've heard of it or something, but and he does very well. So you have to learn the difference between something that's valuable and something that's not. And you could invest in real estate, you can invest in stocks or bonds or cryptocurrency or art, or there are lots of things you can invest in, but you've got to go learn about it. And then if you accumulate enough assets, diverse assets that appreciate over time, you achieve what I would call wealth.